start with our first discussant, the very respected Professor OLU Jegede, talking about emerging landscape for open distance and e-learning. Help him reach the podium, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I can use this one. Okay. No. The chairman of the occasion, Professor Patutomi, the Vice Chancellor, the principal officers of the university, management, Senate, the director of Distance Learning Institute, fellow speakers, and of course the very versatile, energetic moderator, Eugenia Abu. I'm not too sure what I'm to say again. I don't even think I should say anything. We have all seen the dances. We've all sat down to listen. We had people connecting virtually at a distance. So that's distance education. So let's go home. We're finished. But I don't want to disappoint Uche Udane. Now that I want to embarrass the moderator. So let me just say a few things, and then I pass the baton to the others. Instead of talking about emerging landscape, I just retitled it and called it the pathway. So it's the same thing about it. Yep. Let me commend the great foresight of Distance Learning Institute, UNILAG, and especially Professor Uche Udane, the director for this wonderful colloquium. It's a global but continental-based colloquium that is the first in Africa to comprehensively address emerging issues in ODL at this time. And I'm so proud that it's coming from UNILAG, one of the first that started distance learning in this country. I apologize that I'm not a student of UNILAG. I was actually admitted, Mr. Vice Chancellor, 1972 to read industrial psychology at UNILAG. But of course, ABU snatched me. So like the coordinator, I'm an alumnus of ABU. I also want to congratulate DLI for the array of high-level speakers and officials that we have. It's quite legendary and impressive. Let's unpack the terms. We've talked about to recalibrate. That is to amend, to refashion, to modify, and in our case, to change ODL through other things to e-learning or whatever you might call it. The resilience is talking about our ability to withstand adversity and bounce back from difficult life events. Inclusiveness or inclusivity is the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources and getting rid of discrimination and intolerance. You must have heard, or you keep hearing, old normal, new normal. What does that mean? So what is normal? What is abnormal? As a matter of fact, normality is a function of life. And the only normal thing that we have is change or transformation. So normal or normality is a continuum. So don't ever kid yourself and say this is old and new or whatever. It is the current normal that we are talking about. The mode of educating people has been changing. It continues to evolve. And the world has since 1728 changed from face-to-face, that is normal then, to e-learning, which is normal now. And so, the future has actually come. And DLI UNILAG is introducing us to that future. Let's start the story. In the beginning, what happened? How did distance education come about? You can read it. 1978, 1728 by Caleb Phillips, 1843 by Isaac Pittman, 1873 by Anna Tickner. This method, the ODL, has revolutionized teaching and learning. So the road to e-learning is from correspondence, through distance learning, through open distance and technology-enhanced learning, now to digital or virtual or e-learning. Distance learning was first used in higher education, actually, in 1892 at the University of Wisconsin, the University of London, the University of Australia in Brisbane. What do we mean by resilience in education? And I'm going to be very fast about it. All these characteristics, all these factors represent the resilience in education, in distance education. And the guiding principles are flexibility, security, and participation by everybody. There are so many trends that have come up, but one I want you to note, and the keynote speaker mentioned that what most people in the world are doing is not actually distance learning. It's not e-learning. They are doing remote learning or remote teaching. They don't mean anything. Remote teaching is just somebody here, you carry your notebook, put it on the computer, and you are teaching. You must look at the pedagogical principles. You must look at the foundation, the psychological. And unfortunately, even in this country, there's a lack of understanding of the concept of online, open, and flexible education. Most people just think you gather students somewhere, they join by Zoom or whatever, and you start teaching. That is not distance education. And we need to relearn. But I'm glad that, as the Vice Chancellor has said, DLI or UNILAG is training our teachers in how to use distance learning. Two mega factors propelled the emergence of communications technologies, as have been mentioned: the transformative power of technologies and the global pandemic. Of course, the pandemic, started 2019, and the pandemic accelerated ODL and the use of modern technologies. It did not bring it. It accelerated it beyond what it's supposed to be. This is the technology in e-learning. This is the mind map of e-learning, and because you get the paper, I don't need to waste our time. The use of technology has progressed from print to web, and COVID had disrupted education or business or any other thing you can think about. And at the moment, more than 2 million students and youth across the world have been affected, many not going to school. What do we recalibrate? The emerging power we have, the social media, Facebook or whatever you call it, is constituting what we call the 7th generation of models of e-technology that we must use. And so, to move on to e-learning, we must change from looking at the quality of students admitted to students' engagement and satisfaction. If you ask me, you don't need examinations at all. I hope my friends in JAMB aren't here, although they make me work for them. These days, you don't need any examination at all. You need people to demonstrate what they have in their head, what they can do with their hands. Unfortunately, we are wasting our time doing examination. We don't need it. I said it in Singapore 7 years ago that we are going to stop examination in the world, and Singapore stopped it 2 years ago in the primary and secondary. They are going to move it to the university. I can also tell you one more. Very soon, mobile phones will be used for everything, including education. You don't need your computer, you don't need anything, just mobile phones. And that's what is happening. In Nigeria, it is recorded that about 175 million people have got mobile phones. So that's what we need to do. The recalibration will put e-learning at the center. And that's what I want you to understand. For those of us pretending or masquerading that we are teaching open and distance learning, no. You must use all this. Pedagogical, technological, institutional, ethical, management, evaluation, interface design, resource, and distance, and your design, instructional design. If you don't do all this, you are not in distance learning. The second is that you need to use an approach for online learning, for e-learning. It is called Webagogy. Webagogy was actually propounded 1998, thereabout. And this is what I hope you will go back and look at. You must look at the instructional design. You must look at social constructivism. You must look at the epistemology, the pedagogical strategies of e-learning. This is what is the in thing. This is what you use in designing your courses for open and distance learning. Let me move on to finish. What is inclusiveness? Our current normal, 21st century world, 21st century learners, 21st century teachers, 21st century learning ecology. The current normal in ODL, teaching and learning, has arrived. I want to spoil your day today. What we have to have is that education will now be fully online. Although I know that in Nigeria, and of course, my boss in NUC will tell you that we are talking about blended learning. I can tell you, my top prediction is that in 2-3 years' time, everything will have to be online. And the difference is no more face-to-face or distance learning. It is the skills you have acquired and your employability. So the next normal, we have to deal with sustainable future. The current normal face-to-face and virtual and teaching are fast disappearing. They will merge. Nobody's going to ask you whether you did it face-to-face or through distance learning. They will be asking you, what skills did you acquire? How innovative are you? How creative are you? Teaching and learning will be fully online. Any nation, please, including Nigeria, I will say it quietly. Any nation or educational system that neglects the transformation will be left for dead. Of course, we're on sustainability. The SDG goal number 4 talks about sustainability, and I don't need to waste that time. Look at the weapons of inclusivity. There are 7.8 billion people in the world. 8 billion already have mobile connections. The internet users are 4.6. The active social users are 4.2. So we are gradually moving to using the mobile phone as the source of instructing, teaching, and learning. And it's going to happen. So the challenges, we have to keep our focus on the objectives of teaching. We have to use technology the best way. The emphasis is the message, not the medium. We have to meet the need of professionals, and socioeconomic circumstances must be done. And finally, by 2025, our 60% of learners will study through ODL. And by 2050, 75% of those studying by DL will be between 18 and 25. And learners will increasingly take control of their learning situation. In conclusion, when you are transforming, when you are recalibrating, you are transforming. And what kind of transformation should we aim at to effectively use technologies and teaching and learning? Transformation of self, transformation of our practice, transformation of our society, and transformation of the environment. We talk about customer service in this country, although we are very short of it. We don't do it that much. But in the educational system, how well are we serving our clientele? How well are we serving the learners? I'm glad the students stood up. If you ask them how well we are serving them, if they are respectful to the Vice Chancellor and the DLI person, they will say probably 45%. But if they are being truthful, they will tell you it's only 10%. What's our customer value proposition? In our higher education, we confuse our model with our mission. Our model of education learners is under threat. So, for the next normal, what we need to do, please listen to this. This is the most important slide. What we need to do to recalibrate for resilience, for inclusivity, is to create opportunities for all to discover and develop their potentials without any hindrance or obstacle whatsoever, and to use them to make a difference in the world. We must recalibrate a resilient and inclusive open distance and e-learning for a simple, straightforward answer, that is creating an ODEL ecosystem. The movement from targeted population, restricted population, to open education, meaning you have open access, open learning, and open scholarship. The ODL ecosystem also means you make free and open source technologies available to teachers and students. Open educational resources and open access digital tools must be supported. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Indeed, Professor Jegede has been all over the world, heading open learning and distance education in Hong Kong, where at some point in my life I was privileged to visit and live on a small island where we use buggies to drive around. So he has been everywhere with his mission and his vision, his knowledge, and he has deployed them in a very short time today. Professor Jegede has basically said we should revolutionize education in a way that would ensure that, and this is pretty much been quite disruptive, no examinations. He has also said the younger demographic in 2050 will no longer be needing to come into a building. He has also asked us to take a look at convergence and the weapons of inclusivity. Transformation, he has said, and one of it is transformation of self. And some of our online comments have begun to come in, and one of them did say that we should transform our thinking. So basically, everything Professor Jegede has said, apart from the technical ones that we need to listen to him for, pedagogy, and all those high-level terms that educationists use to help us to understand where we're going, are basically things that people are already talking about, young people are already talking about. And a lot of them have asked, and this is for Professor Uche, that they hope that this is being recorded because this is very rich content. They have also said they're very pleased with Dr. Fasina's keynote, and they are looking forward to receiving it on their mail. They have described the entire symposium as bold, creative, and collaborative. Indeed, it has been so bold, creative, and collaborative is what Professor Jegede's intervention has been. Let's give him another round of applause.